Many think that landscape and architecture is a simple form of photography, and we're here to tell you that it's not as easy as some might think. We traveled to a beautiful hidden spot in the heart of Washington, where this photographer teaches us to look at the fine details that are all around us, and how to turn those little details into a fine art masterpiece, even if they're in your own backyard. Come on.
So we're in my, essentially in my hometown of LaConner, Washington, and this is my private beach. And it's kind of nice because it's a great place to come and kind of relax at sunset and, you know, be at one with nature for a little while, in between traveling and trips and kids and all that. I'm from New Jersey. I grew up about 35 miles west of New York City. So 30 minutes from, you know, essentially the heart of the world. And a little bit different than where I live now, a little bit different than where I spent the last 20 years of my life. I lived essentially in Vail, Colorado. After I graduated college, I packed the car and moved out there and lived there for 20 years, and we've moved here essentially 2 years ago and lived here for 2 years.
What kind of things do you guys do as a family?
We do lots of things. You know, we take the kids on hikes. I'm teaching my daughter how to ski, so winters we go up to Mount Baker and we ski a lot, and she's learned to ride her bike, so we bring her down here to ride her bike and things like that too. Yeah, so it's just an amazing place because we have ocean, we have mountains, we've got forest, we've got, you know, wildlife. There's deer that sleep in our backyard behind my office at night, and there's herons that sit on my roof and leave me clamshells to clean up and things like that. So it's kind of a great, you know, it's just a very varied environment and ecosystem. I was kind of like the creative geek kind of guy, you know. I mean, I had a technology background, kind of. I was, you know, that was kind of the beginning of computers, and I started drawing, you know, technical drawing in classes like that in high school, and that ended up leading me to a degree in architecture. And right after I graduated college, I moved out to Colorado, and I actually got a job as an architect, and that kind of funneled into becoming an architect / a builder, and, you know, kind of progressed up the ladder for 15 years or so. And, you know, I think I grew creatively more and more out of that kind of architecture background. Most people don't think of architecture as creative, but it's actually more, I would say it's closer to painting than it is to, you know, the blueprints that everybody thinks of when they think of architects. And the blueprints are kind of the final key in the puzzle. You know, the design is the creative part. And being an architect, or being trained as an architect, they teach you kind of the whole gamut. You know, you learn about painting, you learn about architects, you learn about any kind of creative lifestyle out there to allow you to develop a relationship between the human and the built structure. And I think that kind of pushed me towards the creative side of life. And when I moved to Colorado, I was really inspired by the places I was seeing, the landscapes and the wildlife, and just the overall adventure, kind of the adventure life, so to speak. And photography grew out of that. You know, I wanted to capture that, everything I was seeing, to show people, friends and family back home, and that's where it came from. So yeah, and then as I've grown as a photographer, I've kind of reflected back on that training, and I'm trying to, you know, integrate all that into my life. I think it was about a year after I moved to Colorado, so 20 years ago, I bought a camera. Bought my first camera, and bought a book on how to use a camera and started taking pictures, and kind of fell in love with it, fell in love with, being out at sunset or sunrise out in nature when everything's really quiet and peaceful, and kind of built my life from there. One of my girlfriends at the time gave me a book by Wolfe, and that was like a huge inspiration for me, because he was, at the time, he did this book called Light on the Land, and it was a landscape book, and just the creative images that I saw in there were, it was kind of like that moment where you're like, oh my God, this is so cool. So I met him in a workshop like 6 or 7 years ago now. I took one of his workshops, and it was from that day on that we became friends, and then we started working together, and now we teach workshops together, and we're really good friends. We'll go out essentially being, to dinner or to a movie, or, kind of the drinking buddy thing on a regular basis. And just one of those like really surreal situations in life where your kind of inspiration in life ends up becoming your friend, and it's kind of that whole 6 degrees of separation that you're like, it really does happen, Yeah, so on Sunday, he and I are going to take a group of 10 people to Lake Clark National Park in Alaska, and we're going to photograph brown bears for 4 days.
How do you even find a bear? Like, where do you even go?
Well,
how do you do that?
Out there, it's pretty easy. They, like right now, they're waiting for salmon to come in the creek, so they just sit on this bench of beach, which is all full of this grass called sedge grass, and they're just carbo loading. They want fat, so they're eating grass. They're like little lawnmowers out there, and there literally will be 30 bears out in this plain, and you just kind of mosey on out there and start taking pictures of them. I think the key to any good photograph is less is more. Your initial view or perspective, if you look out here, you see this wonderful landscape, right? But just setting up your camera and taking a shot of that is really not going to give you that picture where everybody's inspired and in love with it, so to speak. I think you have to kind of work at it, and you kind of break it down into pieces and parts, and you get tighter and tighter and tighter until you get to a point where your composition is too simple, and then you kind of back up a little bit. And it's just, I think as you grow as a photographer and as you get better at photography, you kind of learn what works and what doesn't work.
So what is it about your work that people love? Why are you teaching people all over the world that want to come to these workshops?
I think, my deal is that I have multiple disciplines. I shoot landscape or nature, adventure, and architecture, and essentially each thing that I've shot has grown out of my lifestyle. Avid skier, avid mountain biker, kind of makes the adventure thing part of, a no-brainer. And have an architectural training, well, I can walk into a house for a builder and understand their design. And so I can photograph it from a different perspective. I'm not just photographing it as a photographer, I'm photographing it as an architect and a photographer, so I kind of molded that brainwave or whatever in my mind to go beyond. And then nature is just, my love of nature, being out there in the wilderness and seeing things that many people may not see. They may not see the way just a pile of leaves has a pattern to it or a texture to it. And that's what I love about it. And so being able to show people that, and then also teaching people how to see those kind of things is kind of a neat, it's a neat lifestyle / job, profession, whatever you want to call it. I've written a lot about style and vision and things like that, and I think your style and vision as an artist and a photographer changes over the course of your life and over the course of your career. I think I'm trying to fuse, like a modern vision with maybe a not so modern style of photography. Most nature photographers are kind of classical, but my idea is, being a modernist within nature. And there's modern lines and simple things that nature possesses that a lot of people just overlook. I would say art inspires, Art Wolfe inspires me still to this day. It's amazing to kind of be on the inside of his career, where I see things that he's working on now that people don't even know about. And just the way he thinks and works, he's not always just photographing nature, you know, he photographs a lot of different aspects of life. And I think that's, you know, kind of our passions. Even though we shoot similar things, we also shoot different things, but we kind of have the same idea and mission in life. And that's, you know, if we see something we like, we take a picture of it. And I think we'll do that for our entire lives. You know, I'm not saying I won't shoot a portrait of a person. If I see a portrait of a person that I think would make a great portrait, I'd take it. You know, I'm not going to pass up the opportunity at any given moment. It's just kind of like if it's there and I see it and I like it, I'll take it.
Anyone else that inspires you away from photography?
Oh yeah, I love Picasso. I love Jackson Pollock for painters. For architects, I love a firm called Morphosis. They're an LA firm. They do very, very modern, kind of almost abstract designs. One of the principals of that firm spun off on his own and created a firm called Roto. So, you know, those are the kind of things that I'll look towards whenever I need inspiration, or when I see their work. It automatically puts a mindset in my head that I can go take that vision and bring it elsewhere. My daughter's a crazy inspiration. She's this like little artist right now. She loves drawing and painting, and I actually did a little article about her because I couldn't believe that, you know, somebody her age could do what she was doing. And then I realized that, of course, because they look at everything with open eyes. You know, they don't have any preconceived ideas about life, so they can very easily just, they see something and they draw it, or they, you know, think colors look good together and they just do it. And the end result is pretty powerful. And I think having that openness, seeing that openness, you know, close to my heart and to my life is definitely inspiration. You know, it's great because when I'm frustrated or something's not working right, I can just say, okay, just relax. Do what Jade does, you know?
I'm a photographer, but I wouldn't even know where to start because I'm seeing way too many beautiful things.
Yeah, this is kind of sensory overload, isn't it?
Yes, it is. So where do you even start?
So, you know, everybody's initial reaction, they walk down to this lovely beach and they look out to this beautiful scene here and they immediately just set their tripod up and start taking pictures. And, you know, that may not necessarily be the right place to start. Yeah. There's a lot of stuff going on here. There's driftwood everywhere. You know, there's greenery here floating in the water. There's light over here. And I think, you know, you kind of have to start breaking down the scene like this into your basic pieces and parts. And
well, because most people, when they hear landscape, they think, oh, a sunset, oh, a cloud. But the sun's not even here. There's not even cloud. I mean,
yeah. I mean, there are nights when this is, you know, cloud cover and spectacular beauty, but tonight we don't have that. Clear sky doesn't necessarily make an amazing landscape shot. But you know, I'm looking right here in front of us, and I see little reflections happening in this water. And to me, that's, you know, I'm seeing like kind of that Jackson Pollock abstract shot right there. Yeah. So, you know, that's a place that I might start taking photos.
Okay.
I see this really cool green reflection going on here. We still do have some light on this forest right here, and you know, there's opportunity there for some shots too. So you start breaking this wide expanse down into a smaller kind of pieces and parts.
Okay.
And then you know, I just start shooting pictures.
Well, what's cool is that you see beauty in things that some people wouldn't even notice.
Yeah.
So let the master teach us today. Go, master.
All right, master's going. You know, when we walked down here, my initial reaction was, I talked about this kind of funky reflection going on in the water there.
Yeah.
And that's what I'm going to shoot right now. And essentially, 70 to 200 lens, Canon 1D Mark IV, which shoots video, just like you guys are using.
Radical.
Cable release, a little trick here.
Really?
Yeah, the cable release, actually allows you to fire off photographs and not shake your camera, and that's a big plus when you're shooting landscape.
Really?
Yeah.
I didn't even think about that.
Yeah, and
you're wanting it as still as possible.
yeah, you want to try and get as still as possible. And the more vibration you can keep out of your frame and out of your shot, the sharper your image is, the more usable it is, more publishable it is. You know, for me, competing with other professional photographers, I have to do essentially what they're going to do to get the best shot, so somebody will pick my work over theirs.
Right.
Technically, as far as white balance, I'm shooting auto white balance, and because you can always fix it in post. For this shot, the way this water is rippling here, we're going to go with a faster shutter speed. This camera actually shoots really, really nice shots at ISO 800, which a lot of people hold their breath at.
Wow.
But I'm going to need that speed to capture the ripples, and otherwise it's going to all blur together.
Right.
So we're actually trying to freeze motion here in this water, in the reflections. I'm actually going to turn my mirror lockup off and shoot this actually high speed, because as the ripples move and stuff, things change really fast.
Right.
And I'm going to shoot a lot, and I'm going to throw away the junk.
Interesting.
And the reason in most landscape shots I'm using mirror lockup is, again, vibration. I want super still frame, super still camera. But on this, you know, we're shooting at a high ISO, we're going to shoot high speed. We want to capture those ripples. And to do that, I've got to go faster. It's kind of a timing shot, and you can kind of see, you kind of have to start visualizing where you see these patterns. And I know nobody really probably doesn't see it right now, but
yeah, I see water.
Yeah. An area where I'm seeing stuff going on right now, and I'm going to kind of focus about a third of the way into my frame, and then that will, based on I'm going to shoot probably at f11 or so, and that will essentially, based on the distance out that I'm going to compose from, will give me everything from foreground to backgrounds in focus.
Wow.
With my f-stop. So looking at my histogram, you know, I'm pretty close to being centered. I'm a little to the dark side, but if you look, my scene's kind of dark with the exception of these funky highlights. And I'm shooting at f11 at ISO 800, and I'm at 1/800th of a second. So I'm really, really stopping what's going on out there. And if you look, you can see kind of what I saw when I... And if I picked a slow shutter speed, I would have missed all of that.
Oh, yeah.
Kind of the concept of abstract photography, painting, and everything is to find balance. And find balance between your lights and your darks. And if you can find that, if you can achieve that in a photograph, you know, it works more as an abstract. So that's why we shoot so many frames of this little scene right here. And you know,
it's amazing you're taking one chunk of water and making that. I mean, that could go on a wall.
Thanks.
You're welcome.
That's the mission. That's the mission. Try and shoot something that, you know, you put on the wall.
Yeah. Can I have it? Sure. A lot of people think in order to get amazing landscapes, they have to go to Africa. They have to go to these amazing far-off places. What is your advice for that?
My advice is go out in your backyard.
Yeah.
Spend a day in your backyard shooting, you know, within 20 feet of your house.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of people don't realize that a lot of my shots are taken that way.
Yeah.
You know, I do travel about 6 months out of the year, across the entire year, but when I'm home, I'm walking out here trying to find things that inspire me and allow me to keep creating. So, you know, kind of keep the creative wheels greased, so to speak.
Right.
here is, I see these vertical lines, and I see this gray color with this kind of warm wood color, and there's something there. And immediately I turned around and saw it, and I'm like, oh, that'd be cool. Then I also see these really vertical lines right here. So I've got two compositions here that I want to play with. And like earlier we were talking, I said, you know, we're shooting the beach, and I said we're going to go as fast as possible. Well, here we're going to slow down, and we're going to shoot with our mirror lockup, and we're going to spend a little bit more time composing our shot instead of just ramping off photos that we'll end up picking the favorite. Here we're going to kind of create the favorite based on what we see through the viewfinder. I think a lot of really cool designers and painters, I mean, they really focus on texture and line and kind of those basic elements, and that's where they've achieved some of their best work. I mean, if you think about Jackson Pollock as a painter, his paintings are nothing but line. I mean, they're just splatters, and he balances the color and he balances the lights and the darks, and that's why his images or his paintings are so successful. You know, it's just, and it's all artistic. It's, you know, some people can hate his work, some people love his work, and for me, I think it's really cool just finding that abstract with, you know, finding something out of nothing, so to speak. If I can grab somebody's attention on a picture that I take, regardless of what that picture is, for an extra 10 seconds or an extra, you know, 5 seconds or whatever, then I think I've succeeded over not grabbing that person's attention, you know, and I think things like this have open up the opportunity more to grab people's attention, because they may not necessarily know what that is. Right. You know, if this is hanging on my wall, in my office, or in a gallery, or anything like that, it's that moment of, oh, what am I looking at here? Yeah. Oh, that's it. It's just bark. It's just bark, but it, you know, it's taken in a way that you may not have originally preconceived.
Right. Cool.
And so I'm going to take my other shot too.
Okay. I'm going to get up.
Which is right here. Yeah, I think, you know, it's almost like kind of the blood streaks kind of thing, you know. It has, well, what is it? Is it rusted metal? Is it, and it's just very simple and graphic, very simple graphic lines. And those are the kind of things that, you know, out of this entire coast that we're standing on right here, how many people have honed in on something like that?
Right.
Very few. And that kind of brings your photography to a different level, and brings you above the people who wouldn't necessarily be looking for that. We're going to focus on this landscape in front of us.
This amazing view out there.
As the water's kind of flat, there's a little bit of reflection left in it, but we've got some really nice light heading out to the little island chain out here. And so I've kind of changed lenses, went back to my 70 to 200.
Yeah.
So we're gonna kind of bring in this landscape a little bit. I've done another thing, which is I've added a circular polarizer.
Okay.
And the way these things work is they darken sky when you're 90 degrees to your sun. So our sun's setting over there. So our shot's over here.
Yeah.
Essentially 90 degrees perpendicular. So what it'll do is it'll make my sky out there on the horizon bluer than it looks right now.
Really?
Yeah.
Yeah, because you don't have a lot of texture or color to work with right now, right?
Yeah, exactly. And I mean, we do have some nice warm light out there.
Yeah.
This is a warming polarizer, so it'll warm that light a little bit, and we'll just see what we can get.
Okay.
And maybe we'll take a shot, and then I may use another filter. It's called a graduated neutral density filter. It's dark on the top, light on the bottom, and this little filter will allow me to get both exposed properly.
Cool.
So we get an overall even scene. I think if if you have a dream to be a photographer, be it. You know, don't say, well, I can't do that because there's no money in it, or I can't do that because that person says don't do it. Do it because you want to do it. I think if you truly put 100% or 120% or however much effort you can put into it, you're going to succeed. You know, there's no other way around it, I think, because you become so driven and so focused, it has nowhere to go but up, so to speak. So I would say, you know, if that's what you want to be, if you want to be the photographer, close your ears, don't listen to anybody, and do what you want to do. You know, follow your dreams, follow your passion, follow your heart, and live your life. I'm Jay Goodrich. I'm a nature, adventure sports, and architecture photographer, and I've just been framed.